There's been mixed reaction to a new government direction to manage foreign student numbers from Australia's university sector. New Ministerial Direction 111 will divide visa applications into high priority and standard priority. That's instead of capping visa numbers. It replaces the previous Ministerial Direction 107, which was criticised for favouring students from sandstone universities over suburban and regional unis. It comes after the coalition dropped its support for legislated caps. Joining me live is Shadow Education Minister Sarah Henderson. Thanks for your time. The government wanted a bill. It's doing this instead. What's your reaction to it?
Well, Tom, good afternoon. Great to join you. Firstly, let me just correct you. We are very strongly committed to student caps, but we will implement a cap that is much tougher than what Labor is doing because, frankly, this is more chaos on Education Minister Jason Clare's watch. This latest ministerial direction is tied to Labor's flawed student cap scheme, which will bring in around about 400,000 new international students next year, including the exempt categories. And of course, that continues to prioritise the big end of town, the sandstone G8 universities, the University of Sydney and Melbourne. And of course, we've been very critical of those universities, where at Sydney, for instance, more than 50% of all students are international students. And last year, Sydney made nearly $1.5 billion. The rivers of gold are flowing, but of course, Australians are paying the price. And that includes, of course, trying to access affordable housing in the inner cities, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney.
It had to come up with something. So in that introduction, and if it wasn't clear, what I was intending to say is the coalition didn't support the Labor legislation. I know you want to cap students, so apologies for viewer viewers if that was unclear. This still will have fewer students coming in, including fewer from the sandstone unis. So there might be claims that it favours them, but there will be fewer coming in to those sandstone universities. That's still the result of this, isn't it?
Well, no, that's not correct, Tom, because if you look at the 2019 numbers, so the pre-COVID numbers, and look at the cap that the government tried to put in place, the numbers for the sandstone universities are up 12%, but dramatically down for the regionals. And this year, we've just seen the latest numbers drop. Just over 5,000 student visas were processed for regional universities, and that's a dramatic drop from 2019, 72%. So the government has hit the regional unis very hard, which of course causes enormous economic harm to regional communities. And it's still going to effectively implement this soft cap, which is open slather, and that supports the sandstone universities because their cap for next year was 60,000. And the regional unis only had a cap of some 14,000. So this is all about
why didn't you put up an alternative
the big
plan?
End of town, the elite university.
When you wouldn't support the legislation, why wouldn't you put up a specific alternative plan?
That's exactly what we will be doing. We will be announcing a much tougher cap in due course, Tom. But we saw, as I say, an absolute immigration mess, chaos, and in fact, the proposed student cap of 270,000 did not include around about 130,000 foreign students who are actually exempt from the scheme. So on the numbers alone, and I'm just having a look at the student visas granted over the last couple of years, they were actually going to go up, not down, on Labor's watch. So it's just a complete mess, and it looks like the Prime Minister has sacked the Education Minister Jason Clare from any responsibility with international students. Suddenly the Assistant Minister is out. He signed the latest Ministerial Direction, and Education Minister Jason Clare is missing in action, and for very good reason.
It's late December. I suspect there might be a leave arrangement. I'm not across that, but I'm not sure. We'll throw the word sacked out there. I'm not sure that's happened unless you've got contrary information. Let me ask you this. So we'll go to the bigger picture on immigration. You said you'll have a plan, you'll put it out there on students. Peter Dutton did have a plan on net migration for 160,000, a cap on that, but he's no longer saying that will be his number. Why not? What's changed there?
Well, Tom, Peter Dutton announced in the budget reply last year a 25% reduction in permanent migration from 185,000 to 140,000 for year 1 and 2, and then that would increase to 150,000 in year 3 and 160,000 in year 4. Peter has now made it clear that because of the absolute chaos with Labor's forecasts on net overseas migration, we will now be looking at what we inherit and making a responsible economic decision accordingly.
So that
but
pledge
we've just seen
is gone
in my
then,
info,
and there'll be a new one.
I'm just making it clear what Peter Dutton has actually said. So we've now seen net overseas migration blow out by another 80,000 migrants. In the budget, the forecast was 260,000 net overseas migration, and it's actually now 340,000. So we've also seen that blow out 2 years in a row, and we are expecting the hat trick for the 3rd year. So it just goes to show you just cannot trust this government on migration. It's an absolute mess, and of course, as I say, Australians, particularly those trying to access affordable housing, are really paying the price.
Got to leave it there for today, and won't speak to you again this year. So enjoy your break. We'll talk next year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom, and Merry Christmas to you.